Some of the most popular videos on my channel are my adventures in Reshade as the Halo series made its way to PC. If you're unaware of what Reshade is, it's this pretty snazzy graphics tool that allows you to inject a variety of effects into whatever game you install it on. These effects can range from depth of field, color modifications, ambient occlusion, and other fun things. Halo Infinite is the latest entry on PC in the Halo series, and it seemed like a prime candidate for some Reshade shenanigans. So I installed the program and got to... So I tried installing Reshade, but Halo Infinite wouldn't actually load to the main menu. A quick Google search, and apparently all I had to do was delete a few movie files, such as the logo splash screen and the pre-rendered intro to the campaign. There's also a few other interesting tidbits about Reshade with Halo Infinite. When using the Reshade menu, my keyboard mouse inputs unfortunately were tracked regardless of settings, which meant I would be wildly aiming around as I scrolled through the menu, or jumping and punching as I typed simple words. Halo Infinite has no option to disable raw mouse input or the keyboard, so the best thing I could come up with to keep the view stable while I goofed off was running to these fob locations and opening up a weapon selection. It kept my view steady as I scrolled through the menus. If anyone has any better ideas to lock the view, I'd love to hear them. So, okay, Halo Infinite's slipspace engine has a lot of graphical limitations, but the great thing about these limitations is it means that there's a lot of room for Reshade to fill in some of the gaps that the engine may not have been able to. It also helps that the PC version of Halo Infinite is quite modular with its graphics options. There's a lot to fiddle around with, so depending on the filter I created, it actually made sense to turn down some of the graphics options in the game to help enhance the look of the filter I was making. I thought we'd start things off with something simple. So, folks love the Borderlands Reshade filters, and Halo Infinite is a game that could translate beautifully into the Borderlands style. I opened up one of my favorite cartoon filters available with Reshade, simply called Comic. It required a bit of fiddling, but eventually I was able to get the outlines to be placed exactly where I needed. If you overtune Comic, it can make the game look a bit blotchy. Next up was a nice bloom effect to make the picture a bit more lively and less gloomy, and for the finishing touches I threw on a filter I rather love called DLC Sharpen. I'm not sure how it's done, but this sharpening filter tries to focus more on highlighting textures than it does the image itself. I find that it really brings out the scuffs and scratches on gunmetal and walls. With my preset done, it was time to take the Borderlands filter out for a test drive.
M12 confirmed. Stand by for delivery.
Chief.
Give me the gun!
Let's get going.
I have found him! Watch out! They fire upon us! Then I'll kill you for...
Not bad, right? That was a bit simple though. For my next filter, I decided to do something that was heavily requested. Make Halo Infinite look a bit more graphically intense. One of my first orders of business was getting a bit of ambient occlusion into the game. Halo Infinite's ambient occlusion is a bit on the subtle side. It begins to fade away relatively close to the player, and the lack of it in the world tends to make the game feel as if it's just lacking a layer of shadows. Luckily, Reshade lets us inject our own ambient occlusion into the game, and have it extend far beyond what the game natively allows. Now, all of these fake shadows you're seeing aren't really how light and shadow should normally behave, but for the sake of looking graphicsy, I think that it does make the game look a bit better. Plus, these ambient occlusion shadows work even in the shade, which gives the world of Halo Infinite just a bit more depth. Next up was adjusting the colors to bump up the yellows, oranges, and cyans, and just balance out the picture a bit more. Halo Infinite natively is a game that tends to veer towards the grays and blues a lot, so I wanted to make the image look a bit juicier. I then threw on a nice magic bloom filter to give the game a bit more vibrance. The magic bloom effect also comes with a pretty nice lens dirt effect, which puts fake smudges on the screen that catch light, making it seem like Chief's visor has slight imperfections. I then used a filter called Curves to adjust the image and make blacks just a bit more black and less gray and washed out. I then threw on a filmic sharpening filter, and things were beginning to look pretty good. But I just needed one more thing. A bit of depth of field for the distant stuff to give it a bit more of that, wow, so graphicsy E3 look. I was ready to take this baby for a test drive, and I was pretty happy with the results.
You spotted the go! I'm targeted! I will destroy you! What?
Not bad, right? It is a bit much, but the goal of this preset was really just for easy difficulty. It's supposed to make the game look cinematic and graphicsy, more than it is to make the game easily readable for legendary difficulty. There's also this pretty great simulated motion blur effect that Reshade has. Unfortunately, due to how weird the PC version of Halo Infinite is, it seems to only work in menus and not gameplay. I got it working during gameplay for a hot second, but once I hit a checkpoint, the motion blur effect stopped working. Motion blur or not, this preset was something I was quite proud of, and I was ready to cleanse my palette with something a bit more nostalgic. Reshade has a collection of awesome CRT effects and filters that will crop the image of your game. This was an idea I had since seeing that Craig demo all those years ago, and I instantly assembled a Reshade preset using the aspect ratio suite to squish the image into 4:3. I then used advanced CRT to give it that fuzzy, curved TV look, and then I used Yi64 to add a bit of a rainbow fuzz that old CRTs had. I finished up with a touch of bloom, and let me show you how it ended up.
The demon claimed him. This is over!
Another beacon, another part of the sequence. Plan B seems to be working out just fine.
Pretty damn nostalgic, right? I thought so. Next up was something a bit weird. I noticed a filter called Oilify, and this was the perfect game to act as a test bed. So Oilify is a filter that smudges up a game's visuals until it looks something like an oil painting. And well, here you go. Finally, I wanted to properly make the game look as insane as I could in a controlled environment. Halo Infinite doesn't have a way to replay specific levels yet, so I restarted the campaign and landed in the hangar of the Banished warship. The opening level has a pretty great atmosphere on its own, but I wanted to push that atmosphere further. I wanted to make the Banished warship feel intense. I wanted to make a preset that kind of felt like something 343 would demonstrate up on a giant stage, the kind of thing that would rile up crowds, you know? It's also worth mentioning it's about now when I had the amazing idea to simply lower my mouse sensitivity to the lowest possible value so that I could move my mouse around and tune things in the Reshade menu without my view zigzagging around in gameplay. So I did that and I just got to work. First thing I did was use 2 different ambient occlusion filters. The first one I used exclusively for my gun model to give it a bit more depth, and the second filter I used to plaster shadows all over the environment. Next up, of course, was using HSL shift to bump up the cyans and blues while leaving reds as is, because I thought it would be cool to see the ammo counters of the UNSC weapons contrasting against the red of the Banished ship. Then of course we used the trusty curves filter to darken the environments a bit more, and then some DLC sharpen to bring out the wear and tear of the Banished metal. Ambient light was also used to give the environment a bit more of a haze look to it, as well as some lens smudges, and then I put a nice depth of field to give the game a bit more of a cinematic look. So, if anyone was hoping Halo Infinite had a bit more of a wow factor in its visual presentation, the kind of thing you'd see up on stage at E3, you may enjoy this. And there you go. Those are the Reshade presets that I made on Halo Infinite. I'm currently still fiddling with the game, and I'm probably going to make a couple more. I'm also thinking of expanding my Reshade adventures to other games. I've been recently goofing off with Call of Duty World at War, and that's been a lot of fun. So let me know which Reshade preset was your favorite, and let me know what kind of presets you'd even want to see in a game like Halo Infinite. I think next up I have to go back in time and take a look at Halo 4 on the MCC, seeing as I never actually used Reshade on it. So with that being said, I'll leave you guys to it, and I'll see you on the next video.